Welcome, my brozilla, to a new video. My name is Venom, but you can call me as Marco, and in today's video I want to show you my deck profile to Disdain Dragon. Galmieux got a lot of good new support cards in the latest set of Alterchaotica, and I playtested a lot. I came to a list of what was also used by different fight back then, and I think the ratios and the choices are correct. Let's jump into the deck profile. Let's start with the best girl of a deck. It's Galmieux, the Omen of Disdain. We play 3 copies of each. The base says basically, if she gets damaged, you can evolve her for no cost. Otherwise, she costs 2 to evolve. On evolve, you can select an Omen card with cost 2 or less in your cemetery and play it out without cost. And whenever, during our turn, Galmieux gets damaged by ability damage, we can deal 3 damage to enemy follower or enemy leader. So that's basically our whole game plan. We want to burn the opponent down much as possible and strike with our storm followers, what we have in the deck. Then we have 3 copies of Forte and 2 of the Evolve. Do I have to say much more than it's Forte? You can also play Alterchaotica in the same ratio, but in this deck I prefer Forte for the low cost, since Alterchaotica needs a bit more play points to work actually at this point, and we want to kill fast as possible. Then here we have Apostle of Disdain. Her base effect is whenever she gets damaged during our turn, she gets +1 attack and storm. On evolve, we can discard a card, look at the top 5 and take up to 2 Omen cards to our hand, and also of course the same effect as before. Deal 1 damage to her and she gets +1 and storm. That's not once per turn, means she can buff much as possible as long as she has life. So that's our other chance to kill with storm. And trust me, get her out early as possible, she makes pressure. Then we play 3 copies of my best friend, Dragon. On summon, he gives us a draconic weapon, and the draconic weapon says we can crack it, give 1 follower +1 life, and the armor trait. On evolve, we can deal 2 damage to an enemy follower, but if we control another armor trait follower, we can deal 4 instead. So we can buff our Disdain cards like Galmieux or Apostle to make them stronger, to survive a bit more effect damage and deal more damage to opponent followers. Pretty good cards, always to recommend if you play Dragoncraft, and I love this card a lot. Then we play 3 copies of Soul Princess. On Fanfare we can look at the top 5 for a Wormkin, what is basically almost everything. Take 1, put it into the X area, and if we are in overflow, it costs 3 less to play. Means if we hit a Galmieux, we can play her out for 2 instead of 5, and that's so useful. Especially if we're in overflow, we can evolve her also. Like we just pay 2 for 4 play points left, means we have 2 and can evolve. Easy. I love this card. Pretty good and also pretty much recommended in the deck. Our best draw friend, the Servant of Disdain. 3 copies of him, absolutely worth. On overflow, we can deal a follower on a field, means it can also be an enemy follower, and himself 1. Whenever he is damaged by ability damage during our turn, we can draw a card. So that performs pretty well with other cards. Speaking of other cards, Zealot of Disdain, one of the new addition in the set. Fanfare, deal each follower on a field 1 damage, and when she is damaged during our turn, deal 1 damage to enemy leader. What is always good to have is turn 2 we play our Servant of Disdain, and then turn 3 play Zealot of Disdain, draw and deal a bit more damage. So I love this combo. And what is also funny, to play back to back, 2 of them in 1 turn. Your opponent hates you for that. Here is our Disciple of Disdain. What is basically activate, ping 1 follower. Best 1-drop what you can wish for the deck. Since you can ping Galmieux, you can ping Apostle, you can ping Zealot or Servant, whatever you need, and let's go. Then we have 2 copies of Sylvia the Condemner. She has 7 cost, but on play we can destroy an enemy follower and deal 5 damage to its leader. In our hand, for 2 play points, we can discard her and destroy a cost 5 or less follower. Pretty useful. Sometimes you play this card for game. It's so good. Play in turn 6 you have Galmieux or anything else like Forte, and then turn 7 Sylvia for the rest. 2 copies of Confraction. Confraction helps us to clear board. It also combos with our Disdain cards, like its effect damage, so Galmieux triggers, Servant, and all the others. So if we are scared, we can play it, but also can make benefit with it. 3 copies of probably the best card, Total Domination. Get it early in the cemetery, then loop it with Galmieux. It says deal 2 damage to follower, then deal 2 damage to the board. If you control Galmieux, you can deal another 2. So it's 4 damage to the whole board of the enemy, and that wipes kinda a board in most of the scenarios. It's not a Dragon deck if we don't play Dragon Oracle, so 3 copies of it. We ramp on the play points, or we draw a card in the late game if we don't need to ramp anymore, but overall you want to ramp. Turn 2 top deck, best feeling as a Dragon main. 3 copies of Disdainful Rendering, deal 1 damage to a follower, deal 1 damage to a follower, then deal 3 damage to enemy follower. Pretty nice removal for 1. You can't say that it's bad. It's pretty good. And last but not least, Omen of Disdain. The card just says select a follower on a field, deal 1 damage, that's it. But of course, here is the cemetery effect. If we play Galmieux, we can banish this card, deal 1 damage to Galmieux, means we trigger on turn 5 the Evo, and that's so helpful. And that's it for the deck profile. I love this deck a lot, and I'm so glad that we got the support in set 8 for her. I'm looking also forward to BP15, where we got the new Omen support in form of Galmieux, Art and Disdain. It's still a lot of time there, but I cooking already with it, and trust me, soon as it coming out in English, I will show you what I cooked. Maybe earlier than expected, but soon as I cooked, you will see it. So basically that's it. That's the deck, and I can tell you, never underestimate Disdain, otherwise you will be disdained. Bad joke on the end. That's it for me.